Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I am Smriti Rastogi. Hurricane Dorian battered the Bahamas Islands in the Caribbean on Sunday. It is on its way to Florida's east coast and then moved dangerously close to Georgia and South Carolina coast by Wednesday night and Thursday. The Category 5 storm lashed Bahamas with wind, rain and sea storms. 5 people, including an 8-year-old boy, lost their lives in Abaco Island, where Dorian made landfall on Sunday. With blistering winds of 290 kilometers per hour, Hurricane Dorian is the strongest hurricane to hit any island in the Bahamas. Dorian is a slow-paced storm that causes maximum damage. Multiple coastal counties in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida and Virginia have ordered mandatory evacuations ahead of the storm affecting close to 1 million people. Today, in our edition of In Depth, we are discussing all the aspects related to Hurricane Dorian and hurricanes in general, the damage that they cause, how they are formed and named, besides taking a look at some of the deadliest hurricanes that have visited the US. At least 5 people have died and 21 injured in the hurricane which made landfall on the Bahama Islands. Hurricane Dorian, one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the Atlantic, is the 5th category hurricane in just 4 years in the Atlantic and only the 35th on record going back nearly a century. Although downgraded to Category 3, Dorian is expected to remain very powerful for the next couple of days due to its slow-paced nature, which is forcing it to remain stationary in Bahamas. This essentially means that the hurricane continues to pound the islands with heavy rains and winds, causing severe damage. The island's Prime Minister has called the devastation unprecedented and extensive. Take a look at all the details.
Scenes of devastation as Hurricane Dorian battered the Bahamas in the Caribbean on Sunday. At least 5 people, including an 8-year-old boy, were killed in the Category 5 storm that lashed the islands with wind, rain and sea storms. These deaths were reported from Abaco Island, where Dorian made landfall on Sunday, packing blistering winds of 290 kilometers per hour, the strongest hurricane ever to hit any island in the Bahamas. Dorian made landfall at Abaco and Grand Bahama Islands, which are only 12 meters or 39 feet above the sea level at their highest points and are home to 70,000 people. Thousands of homes were inundated by flood water as rescue personnel tried to reach stranded residents, many trapped on roofs. The storm wiped out power in Nassau and the rest of New Providence, which are the country's most populous islands. Initial Red Cross estimates were that 13,000 buildings may have been damaged or destroyed by Dorian. It remained a Category 5 storm for the second day on Monday, moving over Grand Bahama and the city of Freeport with sustained wind speeds of 270 kilometers per hour. By Tuesday, even though Dorian weakened to a Category 3 hurricane, it continues to batter the Bahamas with winds of 193 kilometers per hour. The National Hurricane Center has warned of a 12 to 18-foot storm surge above tide levels in parts of Grand Bahama. It is expected to remain a powerful hurricane during the next couple of days and is likely to pour 12 to 24 inches of rain on the northwestern Bahamas through late this week, with some spots getting as much as 30 inches. Bahamas Prime Minister Hubert Minnis termed the hurricane a historic tragedy for the archipelago.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy in parts of northern Bahamas. Our mission and focus now is search, rescue, and recovery. I ask for your prayers for those in affected areas and for our first responders. The initial reports from Abaco is that the devastation is unprecedented and extensive.
The slow-paced storm is expected to get dangerously close to Florida's east coast late on Tuesday and then move dangerously close to the Georgia and South Carolina coasts on Wednesday night and Thursday. Multiple coastal counties in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida and Virginia have ordered mandatory evacuations ahead of the storm, affecting close to 1 million people. North Carolina has also declared a state of emergency. As a precautionary measure, more than 1,300 flights have been cancelled on the US East Coast. Due to its slow forward motion, it is still unclear if or where the storm will make landfall after it leaves the Bahamas and heads to the US Southeast.
But look at some of this rain associated with the hurricane over the Keys. And we're going to have to really watch these type of areas because notice it doesn't move much. So places going to get prolonged amounts of rainfall. So as we eventually move the storm to the north, we'll have to really watch where some of these rain bands set up because that could still be South Florida. That could be a little, any one of these areas could see those rain bands. And I've seen that so many times over the years, so far away from the storm, you can have some flooding with these rain bands. So we're going to watch those really, really close.
Florida has had one hurricane in our history, the Labor Day hurricane of 1935, that reached at that level, and that was total destruction. So the strength of this storm cannot be underestimated. A hurricane watch has been issued for the east coast of Florida from north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line. A storm surge watch has also been issued for those same areas.
So what is slowing Dorian down? Hurricanes are steered by upper-level winds in the Earth's atmosphere. Forecasters say Dorian has slowed down because a high-pressure ridge that was steering the storm westward has weakened. Now the storm is essentially waiting for another external force before it starts moving quickly again. Dorian's slow, destructive track through the Bahamas fits a pattern scientists have been seeing over recent decades. According to scientists, hurricanes stalling over coastal areas and bringing extreme rainfall are likely to continue as the planet warms.
We're going to be a hurricane the entire week. So that we talked about Wednesday at 2 a.m. This is Thursday, 2 a.m. and that's Friday at 2 a.m. We're talking a hurricane through the entire week. So impacts Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, even up to Virginia with time with that onshore flow. Storm surge in Florida. We can see some storm surge in Georgia and the Carolinas as well. These areas very susceptible to storm surge. See all these inlets? You can get storm surge not just on the coast but well inland.
Global warming has made Dorian more damaging. Local sea level is around 0.2 meters higher than normal already, making storm surges that much higher and more damaging. Dorian moved over waters up to 1 degree Celsius warmer than normal. It intensified at an unprecedented rate for an already strong storm, with wind speeds going from 240 to 300 kilometers per hour in under 9 hours. That has never been observed in the Atlantic before. The only stronger hurricane than Dorian ever recorded in the Atlantic was Allen in 1980, whose sustained winds peaked at 305 kilometers per hour. However, its wind speeds were slower by the time it struck land. With the storm still hovering over the Bahamas, the magnitude of the devastation and death toll is expected to rise. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Hurricanes are the most damaging of natural disasters. A weak hurricane that makes a direct hit on a major city or one that moves slowly, dropping lots of floodwaters, can cause more fatalities than storms of higher category. In this report, we are talking about a few most damaging hurricanes which have hit the US.
Wind speed, cost of damage, deaths, intensity and width are a few ways to define the biggest hurricane. Loss of life from hurricanes is often caused by storm surge and flooding rather than the speed of the winds. Several devastating hurricanes have caused large-scale damage in the United States. The devastation varies from wind damage to flooding to injuries and death.
Well, destruction has already taken place. The only thing is that these countries like US, they are not as populated as our country. So its movement is traced. So the people are warned. But still the structures cannot be removed. The houses or the buildings or the other establishments, they are twisted because the velocity of the wind is so high that most of the structures they are destroyed. The electricity, the poles are twisted. So that causes lot of damage. Well, agriculture land, of course, it will be flooded, the standing crops will be affected.
Some of the deadliest hurricanes to hit the United States include the Chenier-Caminada hurricane of 1893 that claimed 2,000 lives in Chenier-Caminada Island, Louisiana. The Category 4 hurricane had winds blowing at 135 miles per hour when it made landfall near Chenier-Caminada. The Great Galveston hurricane of 1900 was another deadly hurricane. It is supposed to have killed between 8,000 to 12,000 people. The storm reached the Texas coast south of Galveston on 8 September 1900 as a Category 4 hurricane with a storm surge of 8 to 15 feet. The lack of warning caused the storm to inflict the highest death toll of any United States hurricane. The 1928 Okeechobee hurricane, also known as San Felipe Segundo hurricane, claimed 2,500 to 3,000 lives in central Florida. The hurricane made landfall as a Category 4 storm and quickly moved inland with strong winds. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 was easily the costliest hurricane in the United States, with property damages running over $125 billion or $160 billion when adjusted to 2017 dollars. Storm surge along the Mississippi coast completely destroyed many structures, with damage extending several miles inland.
We had Katrina hurricane in 2005, which also affected Bahamas Island and then Florida. So it was also Category 5. And hurricane may even change their category depending upon the feeding mechanism. If the sea surface temperatures are still higher, the hurricane may be devastating, that it can start with a lower category and go to higher category. So such hurricanes are quite common in North Atlantic.
Hurricane Sandy, also known as Superstorm Sandy, cost the US $70 billion in damages and killed 286 people in 2012. Much of the damage was caused when the storm hit the highly populated areas of New York and New Jersey. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey made first landfall in San Jose Island, Texas, as a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour. Harvey then hit mainland Texas a few hours later. An estimated 500,000 vehicles and 300,000 structures were damaged in Texas. Hurricane Maria made landfall near Yabucoa, Puerto Rico as a Category 4 storm on September 20, 2017. Fatalities numbered 2,975.
Well, these hurricanes, as we term them in North Atlantic particularly, they occur mostly between June and September. In fact, September is the most dangerous month because of one property of the water, that is specific heat. During summers, the land gets heated very quickly, creating low pressure, but the sea water takes time. So, after say July or August, coming September, the sea surface temperatures become very high. And there you can see that there is a south equatorial current going and it turns towards north in the form of Gulf Stream. So, already the sea surface temperatures are very warm, and this warm sea surface temperature gives rise to such hurricanes.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June through November, but storms occasionally form outside those months. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration calls September the most common month for hurricanes in the US, followed by August and October. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, we'll slip into a very quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The only difference between a hurricane, a cyclone, and a typhoon is the location where the storm occurs. The science behind them is the same. In the Atlantic and the Northeast Pacific, the term hurricane is used. The same type of disturbance in the Northwest Pacific is called a typhoon. And cyclones occur in the South Pacific and Indian Ocean. Hurricane or cyclone refers to several different types of storms that are seen in different places. While some are seen over land, others form over water. But what they all have in common is that they are spinning weather systems that rotate around a low pressure center. In this report, let's understand what causes a cyclone and what are the different categories.
The word cyclone is derived from the Greek word cyclos, that means coiling of a snake. In meteorology, a cyclone is a large-scale air mass that rotates around a strong center of low atmospheric pressure. Caused by atmospheric disturbances around a low-pressure area, a cyclone is usually accompanied by violent storms and severe weather conditions. Strong winds spiral around the center and pick up speeds of 62 kilometers per hour or more. These winds rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Tropical cyclones form all around the world, generally about 300 miles north or south of the equator. When they form in the Atlantic or Eastern Pacific, the storms are called hurricanes. In the Western North Pacific, they are called typhoons, and in the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, they are called cyclones.
Hurricane or the typhoon or the cyclones, they are all one. The only thing it is the region where they occur. Just like you have astronauts in US and cosmonauts in Russia. So the cyclone term is used if it is in Pacific or in Indian Ocean. But in North Atlantic, mostly the same thing is used, same thing is called as hurricane.
A cyclone is formed when a warm temperature of the sea reaches a threshold level and the wind structure is rising. In simple words, cyclones derive their energy from the warm tropical oceans and do not form unless the sea's surface temperature is above 26.5 degrees Celsius. But once formed, they can persist at lower temperatures and dissipate over land or colder oceans. They originate over the sea and travel about 300 to 500 kilometers a day. A fully matured cyclone releases energy equivalent to a few hydrogen bombs. The diameter of a cyclone varies from 150 to 1000 kilometers, but their effects dominate thousands of square kilometers of the ocean surface. The eye of the cyclone is the center of the cyclone where the focus lies, and the areas surrounding the eye are the most affected due to strong winds. Cyclones are classified into 5 different categories on the basis of wind speed from category 1 to category 5. Wind speeds vary according to the category of the cyclone from 60 km per hour to about 220 km per hour and above. Once the winds around the low pressure area reach up to 62 km per hour, it is termed as a tropical cyclone and is assigned a name. As and when the wind speed settles between 89 and 118 km per hour, it turns into a severe cyclonic storm. The storm intensifies into a very severe cyclonic storm when the wind blows at a speed of about 119 to 221 km per hour. When the wind speed exceeds 221 km per hour, the cyclone is called a supercyclonic storm. The Indian Meteorological Department scale uses 7 different classifications for systems within the North Indian Ocean.
They further categorize the hurricanes into 5 categories: Category 1, Category 2, Category 3, Category 4, Category 5, depending upon the damages associated with the winds. Say for example, when wind speed is from 82 to 64 to 82 knots, it is called as Category 1. When it is 83 to 95 knots, it is called as Category 2 hurricanes. So, like this, when wind speed becomes 137 knots or more, it is called as Category 5.
Tropical cyclones are among the most destructive natural hazards in the world. They often produce widespread torrential rains in excess of 6 inches that may result in deadly and destructive floods. Due to intense rainfall, flash flooding can also occur. Heavy rainfall can also lead to mudslides and landslides in mountainous areas. The strong gusty winds cause extensive damage as they uproot trees and damage buildings. Even after the cyclone passes, the trail of destruction continues. Standing water often causes the spread of diseases and hampers transportation and communication infrastructure. Tropical cyclones cause extensive damage to life and property across the globe every year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the practice of naming storms or tropical cyclones began years ago in order to help in their quick identification, thus helping in better warning system, as names are presumably far easier to remember than numbers and technical terms.
Before the formal nomenclature of tropical storms began in 1953, they were arbitrarily named, often after places, objects, or feast days of saints on which they occurred. The tradition continued till World War II, when forecasters and meteorologists started to use female names to identify storms. Credit for the first usage of person names for tropical storms goes to Queensland Government meteorologist Clement Worridge, who named the systems between 1887 and 1907. But it was in 1953 that the US Weather Service officially created a new phonetic alphabet of women's names from A to W to name the storms, leaving out Q, U, X, Y, and Z. However, this naming culture triggered protests by women's groups in the 60s and 70s, leading to men's names being added to the list in 1979. Since then, the names of both men and women are being used to name the tropical storms. The process of naming cyclones involves several countries in that region and is done under the aegis of World Meteorological Organization that maintains rotating lists of names which are appropriate for each tropical cyclone basin. Currently, 6 lists are used in rotation, meaning the 2015 list will be used again in 2021. However, names of storms that cause widespread damage and deaths are usually retired and are not reused. They are replaced with other names. So far, since 1972, there have been 50 names that have been retired. Currently, the tropical cyclones are officially named by one of the 11 warning centers, depending on their region. In North Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, the US National Hurricane Center is responsible for naming of cyclones. In Central Pacific, the United States Central Pacific Hurricane Center names the cyclones. The Japan Meteorological Agency does it in the Western Pacific region, while in the North Indian Ocean, the Indian Meteorological Department is the official body to name storms. In the Southern Hemisphere, the Mauritius Meteorological Services names the cyclones in the Southwest Indian Ocean. In the Southern Pacific, it is done by Fiji Meteorological Service and the Meteorological Service of New Zealand, while the Brazilian Navy Hydrographic Center does it for the South Atlantic region. For the Indian Ocean region, a formula for naming cyclones was agreed upon in 2004 after 4 years of deliberations. 8 countries, Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Thailand contributed a set of names which are assigned sequentially to cyclones. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of In Depth. We will be back same time tomorrow with a focus on some other subject. In case you missed the television broadcast, you can also watch our program online on YouTube, the link for which is given below. Suggestions and feedback about the program are also welcome. Thank you for watching.